So start small and don't feel like, okay, I'm decluttering the whole house this week, because I think that's when we shut down, we become overwhelmed, and we throw in the towel before we even get started.
So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? Well, listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. Welcome back, everyone, to Call Me CEO. This is your host, Camille Walker, and today we are talking about how to declutter your space, to declutter your mind with the declutter and organizing pro, Carly Brown. Now, I can tell you from experience, I feel so much more at peace when I create space in my home. And if I get home after a vacation and things are a mess, or if I come down in a morning and like the kitchen's a mess, it sets the day at a negative tone for me. So I really try to start establishing rules for myself and my family about how we're going to have things look most of the time within reason, to create that space and that calm so that your home and your life and your mind are more peaceful. So Carly, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited and grateful to be here.
Yeah. So tell our audience a bit about yourself, how you got into wanting to share this message with women online and how it's organically grown. We'll talk a little bit about that with your approach to Instagram Reels, because that's really helped to grow your business as well. But tell us about how this came about.
So I am a fairly new work from home mom. So I worked in the corporate world for 20 years. I built an activewear business to replace my full-time income, and then became a full-time work from home mom. And what I found is when I lost that routine of, taking my daughter to daycare, going to work from 8 to 5, when I lost that normal routine, I also lost routines of keeping my home the way I wanted it kept. And being home more, you would think that it would be the opposite. And I was like, everything's going to be so great. And I just lost that routine because it was like, oh, I have time tomorrow. Like I have all the time in the world, but yet I wasn't getting things done. And I was feeling more overwhelmed and stressed than ever. And the biggest piece of that was my home. So just like you mentioned in the intro, when my home's a mess, and I think that we all feel a certain sense of this, when it's messy, when I'm trying to manage too many items, too many things, and I'm not keeping up on my cleaning routine, it was totally stealing my peace. And even though I was home with my daughter more, mentally, I was just not present because I was so overwhelmed with what I needed to do that I just wasn't taking action on, because I hadn't created a new system for my home, for managing my home, and a new routine now that I was home more. So finally, at the end of last year, I was like, okay, I have got to take control of this. So I implemented a cleaning routine where I clean every single Friday. I implemented daily items and started feeling a lot better and just more in control. I feel like as moms, we have so much to manage, and it steals our peace if everything is chaotic. So what can we control? We can control our environment. And it's not about, like you mentioned, it's not about it being perfect and spotless and nobody can live in the home, but having a peaceful home. So simplifying, decluttering, having less things to manage, and having systems and routines to manage. So once I implemented that, I started feeling so much better. And I just started sharing little bits in my stories and found out that so many other moms struggle with this too. And so I just started sharing more.
Yeah. I mean, we can all relate to this, whether you are working inside the home, outside the home. I mean, everyone's working inside their home, whether you are doing a job on the side or not. So really, our home is our haven. I think a really big a magnifying glass went in on our home life and our systems when COVID hit too. It kind of put in a new perspective of, oh no, everyone's home all at once. Kind of how I feel during the summer, because there's all my kids are home. I'm feeding them every meal. There's more messes. And that is really interesting too, because the first 2 weeks of summer, I give my kids pretty much free reign. I mean, they can't destroy the place, but I don't demand like a certain wake time or make sure you're doing these 3 chores before you go and do this other thing, or make sure no TV is on until 1 o'clock. These are some of our rules that we have. But after those 2 weeks, I and they start to feel a bit of this chaos storm happening in the home. And I'm like, oh, we need to get our systems back in place, because as much as the kids say they don't like it, everyone's happier. And I feel like that is the same thing where you were saying you went from this routine you had before to something new where you said, oh, it's not that things are bad, but there's not a system that gives me a sense of calm. And I think that that applies to us as mothers, as fathers, as children, that if we create a system to establish a life upon, everyone feels more calm. So I love that you discovered that for yourself. What was the first thing or the first step that you made that made a change for creating those systems? You mentioned Fridays.
Yes. So my first step was creating a normal cleaning routine, which I had when I had my full-time job. I did it every Saturday, but once I came home full-time, I was like, oh, I can do it whenever, but then I just wasn't doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So every Friday morning, and of course, there are some exceptions here and there, but my goal is every Friday morning, I have a specific cleaning list and I clean the whole house within a few hours, and then it's done for the week. I also implemented like 1 load of laundry a day. I have a checklist that's called the Daily 7. And while 7 might seem like a lot of things, it's little things like making your bed, doing 1 load of laundry, doing the dishes, little things that I do daily to keep the house up and that we do daily as a family. It's not just on us as moms, you can share those responsibilities with your family. But those were the main things. This is what I'm going to do daily so that I can go to bed peacefully. I can wake up and the house is clean and it's not a mess. And then every week I'm going to do these deeper cleaning things to make sure that if it's on my mind, like, nope, I'm taking care of it Friday, I already know. I visualize like if there's a pile of clothes on the bed that needs to be folded, or if there's a sink full of dishes, it's taking up, that same pile is in your brain somewhere.
Yes.
It's taking up space. It's taking up mental capacity. And it truly was stealing my peace. And I feel like that is true for a lot of us. So my mission now is just to help other moms find and create that peace in their homes. Again, it's not about perfection and your house is always looking pristine. It's about what feels good to you. And again, having less to manage.
Yeah. The way I like to look at it when putting together systems for your home is I really like to think about, and this might sound cheesy, but it's like having your home work with you. So I'll think in the morning or at night, how is the home going to work with me? Like, how are we going to get to work together? So for me, that means in the morning, starting that laundry or starting that dishwasher. Typically, I start the dishwasher at night so that it's ready to be unloaded in the morning, which my kids help with. And if I don't do my part of having the dishwasher going the night before, then their part of unloading doesn't happen. So it's like, it kind of creates this machine of notches that go through. And so even before I leave the house, a lot of times I'll think, how can I make the house go to work for me? Whether it's setting like a Roomba to vacuum while you're gone, a dishwasher to run, or a washing machine to run. There are so many conveniences we have now that our house really can work with us, which I think is really cool. So you have 5 simple steps to simplifying and organizing any space, which I love that it's a simple approach. Tell us about this process and how we can implement it into our daily routines.
Yes. So I have a 5-step simple process to simplify, declutter, and organize any space. You can take this list and you can do a kitchen drawer. You can take this list and do your master closet. And I really recommend, because I feel like when we think about spaces we want to organize in our home, it's a big list for most of us, right? We can always be making things better, but I recommend just starting with one space and giving yourself a whole week to do that one space. So start small and don't feel like, okay, I'm decluttering the whole house this week, because I think that's when we shut down, we become overwhelmed, and we throw in the towel before we even get started. So number 1 is having a plan. So something as simple as like your kitchen silverware drawer. What's your plan? You want to clean it. You want to declutter it. You probably want to vacuum. Like, what's your plan? And do you have things in place that you can just use? So do you already have a silverware tray, or is it something that you've been wanting to replace because you've had the same one for 20 years? So figuring out what you want to do, and then if you need or want new things to help you organize this space. And one thing I really want to stress is you do not need to go out and spend tons of money. And I really stress this in my workshop too. I had a gal who reached out and she's like, I don't want to buy anything. Will this still be helpful? And it's like, yes, you don't have to go out and buy hundreds of dollars of acrylic bins and labels.
Which it can be so tempting to,
Yes.
especially now with social media where you see like during COVID, actually, I bought all the perfect spice bottles and the labels and the acrylic bins, and it can add up quickly. So I think if you do decide to do that, you really have to do it at a slow pace. Like, don't go crazy, right?
And knowing what you need too.
Yeah.
Because I love the bins. I love the labels. I use them, but knowing what you need and how much of it you need saves tons of time and money as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, measuring, if you do decide you want bins, measuring the depth, the width, the height of shelves, so that when you order, you're not ordering 20 things when you need 3. That helps a lot with saving money. So having a plan. And if you need to order supplies, get them ordered. Make sure that you are measuring height, depth, width, all those things before you place your order, and get that going. And if you don't need anything, then you don't need anything. Just have a plan in place. A lot of us have, extra Tupperware dishes or things that we can use as containers and bins that work really well to help us organize things. So number 1 is having a plan. Number 2, and this is the most important one, and this is the hardest, I think, for most of us, is to simplify and declutter.
Mm-hmm.
So get rid of the things, and this depends on the area, but like if you're doing your closet, get rid of things you haven't worn 6 months. Get rid of things that no longer fit. Get rid of things that don't make you feel good. I have a practice where if I put something on and I think it's going to look really good and I put it on, I'm like, actually, I don't actually like this at all. I get rid of it right then and there. I put it in my donate or garage sale. We have a garage sale pile or bag, and I get rid of it right then and there. I don't hang it back up in my closet because it's probably not going to make me feel any better the next time I put it on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but one thing that I found really helpful too is I'll keep a bag in the laundry room, because sometimes my kids, and this is a little sneaky, but sometimes my kids will pass something through that I see them wear and I'm like, ooh, that's getting a little small, but they're like sentimentally attached to it. I'm talking like my 7-year-old wearing a size 4 shirt, and then it'll come through the wash. And rather than him seeing it in his closet again, I have a bag in the laundry room that's tucked behind the hanging clothes that I'll just wash it and then stick it into that donation bin or bag, so that it doesn't have to go through the process again of, are we getting rid of this, or allowing them to see it, or even myself to see it, because sometimes that sentimental piece can be so hard to let go of.
Yes, I love that idea. And yeah, just making it easy on yourself to simplify and declutter, even just on a regular day-to-day basis. I love that. So what I like to do when I simplify is I remove all the items from the space. So again, if I'm doing my pantry, I might do the whole pantry. I might do one shelf at a time. Take absolutely everything out. I do this with closets, drawers, all that. Take it out. And then, look at it. Do you like it? Does it make you feel good? When it's food, is it expired? Is it old? Has it been in the pantry for 6 months? And decide what to toss, what to donate or sell, and then what you're going to keep. So those are kind of the main piles. And then I also sometimes have like a relocate pile, because maybe it just doesn't belong there and you need to place it
not in the
else.
right home.
Yes. And then, so that's the simplifying process. And that's where pretty much all of us have way too much stuff. And we're trying to manage it all. And that just, again, takes up brain space and steals our peace. So that is the biggest, most important step. And then step 3 is clean and prep that space. So I always like to vacuum it first. Just get any dust, any crumbs if it's in the pantry or a kitchen drawer. vacuum it, and then spray it with a disinfectant and wipe it down really nice. Just get that new space clean. And that feels really good too, because you're
Yes.
creating this new, freshly organized, decluttered, simplified space. So that's step 3, clean. Step 4 is then organizing the items that you chose to keep. So this is grouping like with like. So, if it's in your closet, it's cakes, it's sports bras, it's long sleeve shirts, it's t-shirts, it's organizing and grouping by like items. Also, when it comes to clothes, I really like colorizing light to dark.
Me too.
When it comes to the pantry, I like organizing like small or kid snacks, maybe bars, protein shakes, that like organizing like with like. And then you can either just place these things back on the shelves as you have organized them and sorted them, or this is the time if you are using containers and bins, you can put those in those bins, you can label them, and you create your new space. And again, you can do this shelf by shelf. You can do it drawer by drawer. It does not have to be, I'm doing this all week long and I'm going to be overwhelmed and exhausted and stressed out until it's done. Don't do that to yourself. Enjoy the process, and you'll be a lot happier at the end of it. So that's my favorite part, is like putting things back. And it's just like this sense of relief, this weight off your chest, that feeling of peace. Everything looks really good. And sometimes during this time, you find like, oh, actually, I would like a bin for this, or I need to order one more thing, or that's fine. Gather what you need. But again, know that you can do these steps and create a very nicely organized space without lots of things to order. And then the last step is just placing everything back in the space and making any edits or adjustments. And I kind of tend to do this, like if I organize, like I just reorganized our linen closet. I'm like, actually, I want the Band-Aids too high for my daughter to reach, because she's always getting Band-Aids when she really doesn't need them. So, sometimes you kind of learn as you go, like I'm going to move this to a different place, but just get started. And then it's so easy to make tiny adjustments in that freshly organized space.
Yeah, it's interesting as your kids get older. How old is your daughter right now?
She's 7.
Okay. I will tell you, because I have kids ranging now from 7 to 15. And as your kids age, the way you organize changes. Because I used to have a knife block on the counter, and there was a time that I put it up in a high cupboard so that it couldn't be reached. And now I actually have my knives in a drawer, because I decided I didn't like the counter clutter, and my kids were old enough now that they weren't reaching or at danger for hurting themselves that way. And like you say with the Band-Aids, it's funny because there's a time where I loved having a space where my kids could help set the table with their own cutlery or silverware, their plates and things that they could reach themselves, that they wouldn't have the need of me. So I changed one of my upper cupboards with their cups in it to a drawer with their cups in it, because that's easy access for them. They don't need my help for that. And it's interesting as you do that with their snacks you want them to get into, or snacks you don't want them to get into, or you know what I mean? It's like you really have to evaluate the space and look at, as your kids age and grow, what it is that they need and the accessibility, so that builds independence. And I think that one of the best things, well, my husband tells me this all the time. He said, one of the best things you've ever done is taught our kids how to be independent. And I really will, at a very young age, teach them how to make their own food and even do their own laundry. Typically, by the time my kids are 7 or 8, they know how to run their own laundry. They know the buttons to use. They know what to do and all the things. And my 9-year-old just this week started his laundry on Sunday morning because his church shirt was dirty. And he got up that morning, put his shirt in and washed his whole load of laundry. And he came in and he said, I have my laundry going so that by the time we go to church, my shirt will be washed and ready. And my husband was like, what? He just had this look of shock. Like, how did you do that? And he's like, yeah, I know how to do my own laundry. And I said, and who taught you that? And he's like, you did, Mom. Because of course I'm like, yeah, like pat on my back, which my kids are not perfect or like perfect angels or anything, but that was a win for me as a mom, because I think our kids are so much more capable of being a part of the system and being independent in that way if we allow systems for them that allow them to be part of the process, which I think is such an important part of learning independence and how to take care of a home.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I'm actually getting ready to reorganize my daughter's lunch pail stuff. So like when we pack her lunch to where it's easier for her to grab
Mm-hmm.
the things. And like you said, with snacks, like, oh, mom, I'm hungry. Okay. I say this a lot. Help yourself, help yourself. There's certain things in the fridge that she can reach. Because you're so right. Just teaching that independence, and same thing goes for the housekeeping piece. Cause to me, organization and the housekeeping cleaning piece are just hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a chore chart, and same thing when she gets up in the morning, first thing, we're brushing our teeth, we're making the bed. Sometimes we help her, sometimes we're like, how to do it,
Yeah.
so just teaching them, clothes go in the hamper, not on the floor, and teaching that independence. And it creates the peace for them too, because they don't want to walk into their bedroom with clothes everywhere. They don't want to have a friend come over and their room is a mess. Like they feel that too, even though they challenge us on wanting to do those chores. And it creates that sense of accomplishment and responsibility. Making beds is a big one that I think is so important for kids, because they get up and before they've gone to school, they've already accomplished something, making their bed, and they left their room nice and clean. And again, it's not about perfection, but just simply making the bed. And, she might not make it quite as good as I would, but it's more the responsibility and the lesson and the sense of accomplishment that she feels. And she can already feel that before she even goes to school in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that does give them a sense. And honestly, that's one that I haven't been a super stickler on. But during the summertime, I am more than the school year. I don't know why, because it's like I set up more of a routine of them being more responsible for spaces all through the home. And one thing that I did this summer that has proven to be really effective is that I give the kids a single zone that doesn't change the entire summer. Because one of the number one things that as a mom you get asked a lot is, what do you want me to do? What am I supposed to do? What is my job? Blah, blah, blah. And like, it's just another decision for us to make, So
Yes.
I've set my home into different zones. I have 4 zones. I have 4 kids. So for everyone, this could be different for you. But the zone stays the same all through the summer. And then there are little checklist items that they do as well as the zone. So like room, brushing your teeth, those everyday tasks that we do. And it has created so much more space and peace for me, because I'm not having to say, okay, well, this needs doing, or make sure you did that. I just say we have a clipboard that has everyone's items on it, except for my 7-year-old, because in my experience at 7 and younger, typically they need a more refined list of exactly what's happening, like morning, noon, and night, than the older kids do. And so I can actually link to those resources below in the episode so that you can check those out too, because in my time of creating blog content for 12 years, I have made many checklists for kids. And what I do know is that success comes from consistency, but it also comes from mixing things up. So sometimes chore charts become the same where they just ignore them. I at least I've gone through that. So I think that if you have a space and time like a summer where everything stays the same and it's consistent, awesome. By the time fall comes, typically your kids are ready for something a little different. So that's my experience with that. And I'm happy to share those resources below as well.
Yes, we like to change ours up too. We have this really cool like Melissa and Doug chart that we got on Amazon. And like I said, my daughter's 7. So it has a bunch of different examples, and you pick, I think, I don't know how many there are, maybe 6 or 8 of them. And we changed those up too. We did the same thing summertime, like, okay, let's change these up. Or like if she starts getting a little mouthy, we focus on respect. So we put the
Yes.
respect one up there. And then there even are blank ones that you can use like a dry erase marker. And I love that. And I agree. Like the younger they are, they need those specifics. They need that reminder about brushing teeth, those sorts of things. But we like to change ours up too. And I feel like you can kind of tell, like when you like when I forget to remind her and she's not doing it herself,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, we kind of need to freshen things up again or give a different reward, something like that.
Yeah. I read recently that if kids have too many toys out, that it increases their overwhelm, just like it does to us with our things. And the number, this was really interesting to me. The number of that like overwhelm status was 16 toys. 16 toys total. And I thought, oh my gosh, like Legos alone, we have like thousands around the house. But I really got me to thinking about the different spaces that we have in our home. And my youngest, that's 7, has a closet full of toys that rarely he'll pull out and play with unless a friend comes over. He'll really just pick a couple that he's excited about and pull them around the house with him, whether it's like a remote control car and a ramp. And the rest of the toys are pretty much forgotten. I'm curious about this idea of minimalism and what you've experienced with helping people reduce the clutter. What has been the hardest thing about reducing that clutter and letting it go?
I think people get attached to things and sometimes we don't even know why. I was helping a lady and I think her kids were already out of the house, but she could not get rid of these Legos.
Mm,
And so we just kind of talked through it and I was like, so why don't you want to get rid of them? She said, I really don't know. I feel sentimental about it. And I said, well, would it make you feel better if you were able to sell those for much less than what someone would go to the store to buy them for? And a new little boy or girl could enjoy those. And she's like, yes. And she posted on Facebook. She sold them. I think she made 25 or $50 and she felt so good because them sitting in her closet wasn't doing anyone any good. So I think sometimes just realizing too, and I even do that with my daughter, like
mm,
we can sell these at the garage sale. You're going to make some money and little kids who don't have this specific toy are going to be able to get it and they're going to be able to enjoy it now. So thinking about how you can serve others by donating or selling, I think that really helps a lot. And in regards to the toys, I completely agree with having too many out. We have a rule where if we switch what we're playing, so if we're going from painting and arts and crafts to playing babies, we clean up the arts and crafts stuff before we move on, because if not, then at the end of the day, it's so much cleaning and so much overwhelm and just chaos. So I like to say, if we're done with this and we're moving on, then let's put these things away quick. Everything has a home. That's really, really important when it comes to kids because it makes it easy for them to clean up. Um, and then we can get the next thing out and play the next thing. So I completely agree with that.
mm-hmm. I'm curious if you ever read the book Marie Kondo. Did you read her book? And it's so funny because when the book came out, I thought I read it and I appreciated it for what it was, but I thought this lady is not a mom. You know, like it's one thing to be able to say, I come home and it's just me and I do this and everything has its place and it's so peaceful and everything sings to me. And then it's another to be a mom running a house and having, you're not in control of all the things and where they go and how they come into the house. And one day at school, you can come home with 6 new things. And it was really funny because she has now, as she is a mom now, and she's referenced that and said, yeah, everything I said in that book, it doesn't apply to a mom. Like I wish I had the quote in front of me, but she kind of, in retrospect, says, yeah, things are a lot different. And listen, I'm sure she runs her house much more spick and span than I do, but I would love to have her write a perspective book now as a mom, because I'm like, it's a totally different ball game of what to expect and how it can ebb and flow, when we have a lot of activities, extracurriculars, travel, work, sickness, all of these things, visitors. So many times we're thrown curveballs of unexpected things that will turn the house into a bomb. But that doesn't mean that you are not a successful mother, or that the state of your house reflects the kind of mom that you are, or the quality of who you are. And I think a lot of times women's perception of themselves can get wrapped up in that. And I think that can be very unhealthy. And unrealistic of comparing ourselves to, the Instagram or Pinterest perfect closet that we see. It's just a snapshot of time. And being one who's created content for over a decade for Pinterest, I know how a moment in time that is, where yes, it can look perfect, but it's really about those daily systems of making it mostly perfect or nearly perfect, or, comfortable, where we feel at peace in our own lives.
Yes. And I think that's the key. It's what feels good to you in your home, in your family. Because I think it goes both ways, where I know when I became a new mom, people were like, your house doesn't have to be perfect. The laundry can wait. And it's like, that's fine. And I know they meant well, but it gave me anxiety to have the
Yes.
laundry wait. So I think it's just such a fine line and a balance, um, of what works best for us as
Yeah.
individuals and what works best for our specific families, and knowing, like you said, that there's going to be different seasons. There's going to be ebbs and flows. Just earlier, I think it was last week, the toy room had just become this mess, and we're like, how did this happen? So we took an hour and we deep cleaned it. But the nice thing is, once you declutter and simplify and organize, everything has a home. So when things do get chaotic, cleaning up is much simpler because everything has a home. And we do have, like, for toys, we call it a junk tote. And if it's just some random, like, squishy or just something random that doesn't belong in the baby tote or the arts and crafts tote, we at least have a place for that. So I think everything having a home is really important, so that when it does get a little out of control, the cleanup seems much quicker and easier than just kind of shoving stuff where people can't see it.
Yes, absolutely. Now, as we're wrapping up, I want to think about ways that we can romanticize our lives as homemakers. And I know that this sounds a little silly, but I think one thing that Instagram or TikTok has done really well is to show us that everyone's cleaning their homes, and that the process of taking something messy and making it clean can be very satisfying. And when it's shortened down to a 30-second or a 1-minute video, we're like, ooh, that feels really good. It even gives you a dopamine hit of like, oh, look how much better that is. But I want to encourage you, whether you're making content to share or not, film yourself cleaning a space and then put it in either a quick motion or a pace where you can watch the process change. So sometimes I'll even do a time lapse where I am creating content. So sometimes I am doing that for the purpose of my own, or sometimes, like, I was building a bed with my sister-in-law for my niece, and I said, let's film this so we can share it with her, of like the process of putting her room together. And it's so fun to watch something come from nothing, and like even watching yourself working or cleaning something or building something and then watching it back. It's like, look what I did. Look, I did that. And I think that there's beauty in the mundane, like the process of washing the dishes for our families or cleaning up a family room that we do day in and day out. I think that we can turn the cameras on ourselves and really celebrate that, because even if you're not sharing it, there is so much satisfaction that comes when you create a space that makes you feel peace. And I think that that is really ultimately what we're looking for.
Yes, I love that. And I couldn't agree more. I think we're all just looking for peace, and there are so many outside things, and we're so busy with kids' activities, that if we can make our home peaceful for ourselves and our family, it becomes that sacred place for us. And I think that that's really, really important.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we're wrapping up, as you're thinking about this and maybe getting some ideas of how you can make your home a place where you want to be, I want you to get a piece of paper and write down what you want your house to feel like, what you want it to smell like, what music you want to remember being played in the home, or sounds that you would want to hear. And I know that this can feel like really like, well, if I write it down, could it really happen? I'm here to tell you that that intention of writing it down and even visualizing what that could look like is really the magic of making it happen, because you can then find resources to help you implement systems. And I have great news for all of you because Carly has a freebie that we can all access if we're looking to reset our spaces and help our homes to operate more smoothly. So please tell our audience where they can find you online and also get a hold of the services you offer as well as the freebies.
Okay, yeah. So you can find me at carlyjo.brown on Instagram. So it's just CARLYJO.brown. And I have a couple of freebies there. I mentioned my daily 7, what I do daily. I have that there as a freebie. So it's just a checklist. You can use it digitally. You can print it off, but it's just a really good reminder of 7 little things that you can do throughout the day or at the end of the day to keep your home clean. I also have my weekly cleaning checklist available. And then the other freebie I have is the checklist we went through today. So the simplify and organize checklist that you can take these 5 steps, you can apply them to any space in your home. And I love getting questions. If you have questions, send me a DM on Instagram. I love helping people. And I try to share a lot of content around different little spaces and different supplies or tools that you can use to organize as well. And then I offer one-on-one virtual organizational coaching too. So that's really fun. If you feel like you just need a little bit of extra help, we meet on a Zoom. I see your space. We talk through your goals. I send you direct links to some products that I think could help. And then we get back on a Zoom and we organize and simplify the space together.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you everyone for tuning in today. And I hope that you found inspiration to create a space that you love at home, one step at a time. Listen, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Hey CEOs, thank you so much for spending your time with me. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please let me know in a comment and a 5-star review. You could have the chance of being a featured review on an upcoming episode. Continue the conversation on Instagram at Call Me CEO Podcast. And remember, you are the boss.